Hi students, in this yoga practice we're going to be working on some open hip standing and balancing postures. So in our last week's introduction to standing and balancing poses, you did warrior one, pyramid, humble warrior. You also learned a new balance, eagle or garudasana. So now we're moving from postures where our hips are facing forward to ones where they are more open. Warrior two, half moon, triangle. Those will be some of the new things we'll introduce in this practice. So to start, find a comfortable seated position or sukhasana. I'm sitting up on my folded blanket. You're welcome to do this, or maybe grab your bolster or whatever you're using for a bolster. Be somewhere where you can find a tall spine. Give your hands somewhere to rest. And then maybe close the eyes or just take an easy gaze down and out in front of you. And just start to focus in on your breath. Maybe you notice if there are places where the breath is moving really freely. And maybe you notice some places where the breath feels a little more stuck. Just trying to notice what your body, what your breath feels like in this moment without judging what you find as good or bad, but it just is where you are right now. As you continue to breathe, notice if the inhale matches the exhale in length. Or if you notice one side of your breath is a little bit shorter than the other, gently try to lengthen that shorter side. And as we prepare to start our asana practice today, I'll invite you to think about, as our opening intention or meditation, a niyama today. Niyamas are more internal guidelines for how to live in a yogic way, where yamas, which we've studied so far, usually deal with how you interact with the world. Niyamas are internal observances of your own character, of how you're living. And so thinking today in particular about the niyama santosha. Santosha means contentment. And so this niyama is just reminding us to be content with wherever we find ourselves in the given moment. And it doesn't mean that you can't be working towards something else, working to better yourself, striving for something. If you're in college, you probably are striving for that degree and a different job or your first job. But it means that strive or that ambition doesn't take over. It doesn't become an obsession, an addiction, and it doesn't interfere with your ability to still be happy, to be content with where you are right now, even as you might be working towards something else. So in relation to our asana practice today, find santosha, be content with where you find yourself in a given posture. For those of you that have some yoga experience, you might not be in a posture the same way you were yesterday or last week or last year. And it probably won't be the same place you'll be tomorrow or next week or 10 years from now. But listen in to what your body, what your breath, what your spirit needs now, and be content with whether that means you're working a little bit harder or you're going deeper into a stretch or you're backing off and you're taking more pauses or more time to rest. Breathing in. And breathing out. Start to find ujjayi breath here. Making that slight E and ah sound, constricting the throat, as if you're pulling your air in through a straw. One more breath here. Blink the eyes open or raise the gaze. Feel the low belly pulling in and up on your exhale, Uddiyana Bandha, protecting the lumbar spine. Next, inhale, reach the right arm up by your ear. The left fingertips reach down towards your mat. Exhale, reach up and over to the side. On your inhale, look up, open that top shoulder. And on your exhale, fold over the left knee on the diagonal. Take a breath in. And let that breath go. Roll your way back up to center. And then unwind on your exhale. Next, inhale, left arm comes up by the ear. Exhale, reach over to the opposite side, keeping both sit bones rooting down into your mat or blanket or bolster. Inhale, look up, open your top shoulder. Exhale, fold over the knee on the diagonal. Full breath in. Full breath out. Roll your way back up on your inhale. Unwind on your exhale. Take one more breath, sweep both arms up. Bring the palms together. And exhale, hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Take a breath in. And let that breath go. Reach your arms forward, come to table, hands and knees. So like usual, you're welcome to slide your blanket under your knees if you would like a little extra cushion. I'm gonna leave mine off to the side for today. Wrists right under shoulders, knees right under hips. Inhale to cow, belly drops, head and the sit bones reach up. Exhale, curling to cat. Trying to get as much curl through the lower back as you can. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. One more time, inhaling. And exhaling. Coming back to neutral. Step your right foot back behind you, ball of the foot on the mat. Press your heel towards the back of the room. Inhale, shift the weight a little forward, stretching into the wrists. And then exhale, press the heel back again. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, back. This time as you shift forward, lift the leg. Hips stay level, toes point down. Stay here or lift the left arm up as well. On your exhale, pull elbow to knee, curling the spine. Inhale to reach long. Exhale to curl. Inhale to reach. Last time, curling in. Reaching long. And then land the hand and land the knee. Take a moment to flip the right palm over, just to take a little stretch of the wrist of the forearm, and then come back to your table. Left foot steps back, ball of the foot on the mat. Press your heel towards the back of the room. Inhale to shift forward. Exhale to shift back. Inhale forward. Exhale back. This time as you shift forward, lift the leg, hips stay level, low belly pulls in and up, stay here, or the right arm reaches up as well. Next, exhale, elbow to knee, curl the spine. Inhale to reach long. Exhale to curl in. One more time, inhale. Exhale. Reaching back long. Land the hand and the knee. And flip the left palm to take a stretch. Coming back to table, walk your hands a little bit forward. Tuck your toes under. Press wide through the shoulders. Lift the knees an inch or two off the mat and pause. Reach your chest towards your thighs and then sit bones up, downward facing dog. Pressing long through the shoulders, pedal through the feet here to warm up the calves. Whole surface of the hand pressing down into the mat. Settling into stillness in your down dog for 2 full breaths. Inhale to shift forward to plank. Lower knees, chest, chin, Ashtangasana. Drag your chest forward and up, cobra. And then come down to your stomach, exhale. 2 more cobras. Inhale, reaching up. And exhale to lower. 1 more time, inhale. And exhale. Press to table or plank. And then exhale, downward facing dog. 2 full breaths. At the end of your next exhale, slowly walk your feet to your hands. Arriving at the top of your mat, let your head hang heavy. Maybe give a little shake, yes or no. Bend your knees, roll your way up to standing. Standing at the top of your mat, Tadasana. Feet pointing straight ahead, belly pulling in, shoulders reaching back and down. Take a breath in. And let that breath go. Arms reach up and overhead, inhale. Exhale, diving forward, Uttanasana. Come up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Hands to shins or thighs, back of the neck and spine are long. Exhale, fold. Do that 1 more time, inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Come up through that long spine, top of the head leads. Inhale, rising up, arms reach out. They collect overhead and pull to heart center. Take a breath in. And let that breath go. Full sun salutation. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, dive forward. Uttanasana. Come up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale to fold, plant your hands, walk back to plank. Inhale here. On your exhale, your choice, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhale, cobra, maybe upward facing dog. You'll see I'm still doing cobra. And then exhale directly to downward facing dog. Breath in. Breath out. At the end of your next exhale, step or maybe hop, feet to hands. Inhale, come up halfway. Find your long spine. Exhale, fold. Top of the head leads you up. Inhale. Open the arms this time. Tadasana. 1 breath in. And 1 breath out. So remember, you always have the choice between Ashtangasana, knees, chest, chin, or Chaturanga Dandasana. Chaturanga can be on your knees or on your feet. You always have the choice between cobra and upward facing dog. Even if I say one or the other, you can choose either. And coming forward from downward facing dog to Uttanasana, you can step, you can take lots of steps, or you can hop. Remember, if you're hopping to your forward fold. So your chest and hands have to stay low on the floor. You're not hopping directly to an up position. So just keep that in mind. A little bit later on, we'll add other places that you can hop in your sun salutation. So if you've done that before, just hang with me. We'll get there pretty soon. Coming back to the top of your mat, Tadasana. Next, inhale, arms reach up. Exhale to dive forward, Uttanasana. Come up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold, walk back to plank. Inhale here. On your exhale, Chaturanga, or knees, chest, chin. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. And exhale, downward facing dog. Take one full breath. And let that breath go. Reach the right leg up, three-legged dog. Now today, we are gonna open that hip. Try to stack your right hip on top of the left. Bend your right leg. So your toes are falling down off to the left side. Look under your left armpit, and maybe you can see your toes. Maybe not, that's okay. Right knee is really high. So this is just a variation of three-legged dog. If I don't specify which one to do, you can always choose. Take some circles through that knee, just warming up the femur and the hip socket, and the other way. Now straighten the leg, re-square the hips, pull knee to nose, core plank. Send the leg back up, three-legged dog. This time step forward to your lunge. Now step your left hand off the side of your mat. Open the right arm, wide twist. So I've got some weight leaning into my left hand. My left knee is still lifted. Take another breath here. Right arm comes inside the right leg. Walk that right leg off on the diagonal. So my knee and my toes are pointing towards that top right corner of my mat. Both arms are inside the leg. I can stay here, or I can lower my left knee towards the floor. Hips are reaching forward. This is lizard. Stay here, or maybe you come down to your forearms for a deeper stretch. Or it's a great time to use your blocks if the floor feels a little far away. Breathe in. And breathe out. 2 more breaths here. If you lower to your forearms, come back up to your hands. Scoot your blocks out of the way if you used them. Now walk that right leg back to parallel. Toes and knee point forward. Arms frame the foot. Lift the left knee. Step that right foot back to meet the left. Downward facing dog. Take a breath in. And let that breath go. Left leg reaches up on your inhale. Stack your hips, bend the left knee. 3-legged dog. Look under your right armpit. Maybe you can see your toes. Keep your right heel reaching straight back. And then take some circles with that left knee. And the other way. Straighten the leg, re-square the hips. Pull knee to nose, core plank. Send the leg back up, 3-legged dog. Step forward to your lunge. Right arm steps off the side of your mat. Open the left arm, wide twist. 2 breaths here. Left arm comes down inside the left leg. Walk that leg out on the diagonal. So my toes and my knee both point towards this top left corner. And the right knee can lower. If that bothers your knee to lower it, you can keep it lifted this whole time. It's a little more strength building. Staying here, or maybe coming down to forearms or to your blocks. Lizard pose. Breathing in. Next inhale, come back up to your hands if you lowered to your forearms. Walk that left leg back to parallel, hands frame the foot, tuck your back toes under, lift the right knee, and then step your left foot back to meet the right, downward facing dog. Take a breath in, and let that breath go. Once more, inhale. At the end of your exhale, look forward, step or hop feet to hands. An inhale brings you up halfway. Exhale to fold. Reverse swan dive up, inhaling. And exhaling, Tadasana. Breathing in. And breathing out. Right from here, we're going to step our left foot back. Step it way back behind you on the mat, and then open your hips to point to the side of the room. Put your left heel down. So it's going to take us a minute to get into position. First off, you want your feet really wide. Your right knee and toes are pointing straight ahead. That right heel is going to intersect the arch of your left foot. Your left foot, toes, leg, even your hips are pointing directly sideways. So they'll be pointing that way if you're looking straight at me. Take a big bend in your right knee. Make sure the knee is pointing over your second or third toe, so it's not dropping inside. And the first thing to notice is, can you do both of these things at once? Can you keep the right leg forward and the left leg completely sideways? If you can't, rotate those left toes a little more on the diagonal. So your hips won't be fully open, but they'll be pretty open. But adjust with the back leg, not with the front leg. Front leg stays forward. Now press the pinky toe side of that left foot firmly into the mat. Make sure shoulders are right over hips, belly's pulling in. Arms reach out, and then gaze or take your focus or your drishti over your right middle finger. Bend a little deeper into that right leg. Knee is pressing open. Relax the shoulders. Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Breath in. And breath out. Take one more breath where you are. Flip the right palm. Keep your legs exactly as they are. Inhale, reach the torso up and back. Reverse warrior. Left hand just lands on your legs. Drop that right shoulder away from your ear. This is a side bend through the right side body, not a back bend. Come back to warrior 2. One more breath here. Now bring your right elbow to your thigh. That left arm is going to reach diagonally up and overhead. Palm points down towards the floor, and you're looking under your left bicep. You're trying to be a straight diagonal line from left wrist all the way down to left ankle. This is extended side angle. So sometimes you see this posture with this arm up. That's just a variation, but you miss that big diagonal pull. That's why we're reaching here on the diagonal. A little less weight in that right arm. Breath in. Breath out. Come back to warrior two. Now on your exhale, lift your back heel, rotate hands to mat, step back to downward facing dog. Take a breath in. And let that breath in. Look forward, step or hop, feet to hands. And inhale brings you up halfway. Exhale, fold. Top of the head leads you up, inhale. And open the arms. Tadasana. Breath in. And breath out. Now let's see if we can find that on the other side. So step your right foot really far back behind you. Rotate the right heel down. Left knee and toe are pointing straight ahead. The heel of the left foot intersects the arch of the right foot. Right foot and hips are pointing directly sideways. Pinky toe side of the right foot presses down. Now make sure your shoulders aren't leaning forward. Feel the right side of the waist pull slightly towards the back of your mat. Shoulders are right over hips. Knee presses open. Arms reach out, relax the shoulders. Your drishti is over your left middle finger. Your gaze. Warrior two. Virabhadrasana 2. Breathing in. And breathing out. Ideally, you're trying to strive towards a 90-degree angle in that front leg, but you don't have to be there now. Keep your legs as they are. Flip the left palm. Inhale, reach up and back. Reverse warrior. Stretching the left side body. Coming back to warrior two. Inhale. On your exhale, left elbow to thigh, right arm reaching diagonally up and overhead, extended side angle. Feeling that diagonal line through the right side of the body. You're light on this elbow. You still have a big bend in that left knee. Gaze is up under the right bicep. One more breath. Coming back to warrior two. On your exhale, lift the back heel, rotate hands to mat, step back to downward facing dog. Full breath in. Full breath out. Step or hop, feet to hands. An inhale brings you up halfway. Exhale, fold. Reverse swan dive up. And exhale, Tadasana. Breath in. And breath out. So before we move on, make sure your blocks are near the front of your mat. So I'm going to recommend that you take them just outside the mat near the front. This way they won't be in your way as we go through our sun salutation, but you'll be able to grab them pretty easily. So once your blocks are there, come back into Tadasana. Take a breath. And let it go. Reach your arms up, inhale. On your exhale, fold. Uttanasana. Come up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Walk back to plank. Inhale. On your exhale, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. And downward facing dog on your exhale. Inhale, reach the right leg up. Step forward to your lunge. Now the left arm is going to reach up first. As the left heel rotates down, left arm and then the right brings you up, bend the right knee into warrior two. So you're right back where you were before. Take a breath and let it go. Now straighten your right leg, but keep this quad doing some work. So you don't want to straighten so much that you've locked that leg out and the quad kind of relaxes. So you might even take a tiny little bend in this knee. So remember we talked about the knee joint being a hinge without a bony stop? That's why we don't want to lock it out, because eventually it'll put too much stress on those ligaments right behind the knee. If you feel like your feet are a little too wide, you can always step that back foot up a little bit so you have a little bit narrower stance. You should still be in that same alignment you were in for warrior two. Front heel intersects the back arch. Left leg and hips are pointing sideways while the right leg is pointing forward. We're reaching towards triangle next. Pick up a block in your right hand and hold it so that when you're ready to put it down on the floor, it'll be as tall as it can be for now. So that block is reaching out. Keep your torso sideways and then reach your block way forward, then drift it down behind your leg and open that top shoulder. Gaze comes up. Now if you can't reach your block all the way to the floor, just drop it and bring your hand either to your shin or even to your thigh. Make sure you're not pressing on your knee though. You want to keep your torso directly sideways. So you want to make sure that you haven't put your block in front and you are leaning forward. So if you saw me from the side, you would see my hips are kind of poking out behind me. We want to stay in the same plane, as if two pieces of glass are mashing you in between them. This is Trikonasana triangle. Take 2 more breaths here. Now bend your right knee. Look down. Bring your left hand to your hip for now. You're gonna move your block in front and a little off to the side of your right foot, a little to the right. And then start to push all your weight into that right leg. Right knee is bent slightly. Start to lift the back leg, stack the left hip on top of the right. Now you might have already fallen over, that's okay. Just see if you can come back here. If this feels good, reach that left arm up. You're in balancing half moon. Left hip is on top of right. There's a small little bend in the right knee. If all of this feels really great, put less weight in that right hand. Eventually, it will float, but it doesn't have to today. Start to bend the right knee. Step back to your warrior two. Left foot lowers down, torso comes up. Inhale here. On your exhale, hands to mat. Now step back to plank. On your exhale, chaturanga or knees, chest, chin. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Downward facing dog on your exhale. Full breath in. And let that go. Left leg reaches up, three-legged dog. Step forward to a lunge. Now, just like we did on the right, this time right heel comes down, right arm comes first, windmill up to warrior two. Big bend in that left knee. Check out your alignment. Heel to arch. Hips are open to the side. Shoulders are relaxed down. One more breath. Inhale to straighten the left leg. Maybe you make your stance just a tiny bit narrower to make sure you can keep that left quad doing some work. Maybe you take a tiny little bend in that left leg, but you want it to be as straight as it can be. Pick up a block in your left hand. Reach it forward. Feet are pulling towards each other to help support you. Chest stays reaching towards the right side. Block reaches forward. Your right hip is reaching towards the back of your mat. Then let your block come down outside your leg. Open your left shoulder, right shoulder, right fingers reach up. Your gaze is up unless that bothers your neck. If it does, you could look out or you could even look down. Trikonasana, triangle. 3 full breaths here. Making sure torso is in the same plane as your hips. Try to feel your sit bones rotating under you. So make sure they're not sticking out behind. Last breath here. Start to bend the left knee and look down at the left foot. You're gonna start to reach your weight more into the left foot, reach your block forward and a little bit to the left. Start to lift the right leg, stack your right hip on top of the left. You can bring your hand down to your hip to start. A little micro bend in the left knee. Really think about opening the hip, stacking the right shoulder on top of the left. If all of that feels good, the right arm will reach up. And keeping your gaze down at the floor is going to be the easiest way to find your balance. If you're pretty steady, you'll start to look out or even look all the way up at your right fingers. Take 2 more breaths here. This is half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. Start to bend the left knee. Come back to warrior two, gently, hopefully. Full breath in. Full breath out. Start to lift your right heel, windmill hands to the mat, and this is your choice. Step to plank or downward facing dog. If you're in down dog, hold there. If you step to plank, lower chaturanga or knees, chest, chin. Inhale to cobra or upward facing dog, and then join us in downward facing dog. Inhale, everyone. Lower your knees to the mat. Take your big toes together. Sit back on your heels, child's pose. Any variation of child's pose you would like. So remembering your variations for child's pose, knees could be close together or they could be really wide. Arms could be extended overhead, or you might drape your hands back by your heels. You're always welcome to grab your blanket or towel, pull it behind the knees, if that helps make it a little more comfortable. Take 2 more breaths where you are. Breathing in and breathing out. And once more, inhale and exhale. The next time you inhale, come up to table, hands and knees. Tuck your toes and return to downward facing dog.
Full breath in. And let that breath go. Reach your right leg up, three-legged dog. Bend the knee, open the hip. Take a moment to come back to this stretch. And then square the hips, straighten the leg. Now this time you're going to pull that knee outside your right tricep as you hover forward. I'll show you on the other side. You'll be right here. Now send the leg back up, three-legged dog. Do that one more time. Knee outside the tricep. Send it back up. And now step that foot down. And we'll do the same thing on the left. Left leg reaches up, three-legged dog. Bend the knee, open the hip. Look under your right armpit, keeping the shoulders square. Straighten the legs, square the hips. Left knee comes forward outside the left tricep. Send it back up. Again, hovering forward. And up. Step both feet down. Breath in. At the end of your exhale, step or hop, feet to hands. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Top of the head leads you up. And open the arms. Tadasana. Close the eyes here a moment. Just take a couple breaths and notice how your body's feeling in this moment. Maybe notice if your breath started to get a little labored. Try to bring it back to that nice, even breath. Maybe even layer in a little ujjayi where you can. One more breath here. Blink the eyes open. Bring your hands to your heart. Now take your feet about the width of your mat. If you have very narrow hips and are a very small person, a little narrower. If you're a particularly bigger person, you might even need to take your feet a little bit wider. But this is a good starting point. About the width of your mat, and then pull your heels slightly in. So your legs are rotated out a little bit. And remember, you'll be here, sideways. I'm just turning so that you can kind of see what's happening a little bit better. Hands are at the heart. Now you're going to start to bend your knees. Make sure your knees point over that second or third toe, and bend as low as you can, keeping your heels on the ground. Now some of you might be able to come all the way down here. Heels are still on the ground. If your elbows reach your knees, use them to press your knees open, widen the collarbones, lift the chest. Now if you're not here, let's say you can bend pretty low, but your heels start to lift. Grab your blanket or towel, fold it a little bit, and then put that folded edge under your heels to give your heels something to press into, and that should make it a little bit easier to come down low and balance without teetering backwards. Now if you still feel, or maybe you don't need the blanket, but you feel like you're about to fall backwards at any moment, you could always grab your block, place it underneath your hips, and once you're here, it'll give you a little something to make sure you're not falling back, but don't just sit down and hang out. Still try to keep your weight reaching forward, more weight in the feet than in the pelvis. Now, if this much flexion bothers your knees altogether, stay higher. You'll be here. Take your feet a little bit wider in that case, and you're here. So if you're low, you're in malasana or yogi squat. If you're higher, you're in more of a horse stance, which is also part of the asana called goddess, which we'll do in a later practice. So take one more breath wherever you are. And then reach your hands to the mat. Send your hips high. Rotate your feet parallel. If you have your blanket or towel under your heels, go ahead and slide it out from under you. So you're in a wide-legged forward fold. Let the head hang, knees bend, grab opposite elbows, and sway a little side to side. Coming back to center, release your hands back down to the mat. Now walk your feet back to downward facing dog. Take a full breath in. And let that breath go. Reach your right leg up, three-legged dog. Now swing the knee forward, and your knee is gonna come behind your wrist and a little off to the right edge of your mat. Your foot is going to try and work its way forward, but it doesn't have to get all the way forward. So in ideal yoga land, which you never have to make it to, your shin would be parallel to the front edge of your mat. You'll see mine is not parallel, and it really depends on the shape of your hip socket if you'll ever get there. But you do want your right knee out to the right edge. It's not directly in front of your hip. Your left toes might help pull that left leg out from under you a little bit. And then notice how much space there might be between the right hip and the mat. You can grab a block, your folded blanket, even your bolster, and give yourself some support under that right hip if you need it or want it. This is pigeon, one variation. So if this bothers your right knee, first try flexing your right foot. See if that can take any pinching away. If it still bothers you, you're gonna roll onto your back and come into the reclining pigeon variation that we have learned already, where you're crossing ankle over thigh and hugging that knee into your chest. So this is your option if the other variation of pigeon bothers your knee or bothers something else. If you're in this regular variation, start to fold over your right leg. You might come down to forearms. Some of you might lay all the way flat onto your stomach. And take a few breaths here. Next time you inhale, bring your torso back up. Now if you're on your back, just stay on your back. Just go ahead and uncross the legs and bring both feet down to your mat. If you're here, tuck your back toes under and then step back to downward facing dog. Take a moment to pedal through the feet or do any wiggling around you might want to do. And we're gonna move to the other side. So if you're doing our reclining variation, cross left ankle over right thigh, pull that right knee into your chest. If you're in down dog, lift the left leg, reach that left knee and shin forward. The knee lands out to the left edge of your mat. Left foot flexes. Right toes might pull the leg out from under you a little bit. They also might not. Maybe you take your block, your blanket, your bolster, give yourself some support under that left hip. And then take a moment to lift the chest. So this is Ekapada Kapotasana, one-legged pigeon. There is a one-legged king pigeon, which we'll learn in a later practice. It is a variation on this. If you're upright, start to fold over the left leg. Relax the shoulders as you do. Pull your air all the way to the back of the lungs. And exhale, try to relax a little deeper. 3 more full breaths. Next time you inhale, bring the chest back up. Tuck your right toes under so you can lift that right knee and step back to downward facing dog. Take one last breath here and then lower your knees to the mat. Shift your feet off to one side so that you can have a seat. Sit in about the middle of your mat. And bring your feet out in front of you. So we're coming to a seated fold. So notice first, if you're sitting flat, can you find that lengthened spine? You might need to bend your knees a little bit to find it, or sit up on your bolster or your folded blanket. If you take a seat a little bit higher, usually it helps you rock the hips a little bit forward to find that tall spine. Take your hands next to you, press them into your mat or whatever is next to you. Sit up as tall as you can. Feel the balls of the feet reach forward. Belly pulls in. This is Dandasana. Breathing in. And breathing out. 2 more breaths here. Next time you inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Exhale to fold forward, Paschimottanasana. Seated forward fold. Try to reach your chest towards your shins. Forehead is reaching down towards the ankle rather than the knee. That just means you're lengthening as you're folding. You're not just curling over. Full breath in. Full breath out. Inhale yourself back up to sitting. And bend the knees. If you're sitting on your blanket or bolster, go ahead and come off. Scoot that off to the side. And bring your feet in front of you with the knees bent. Pick up a block while we're here and have them handy today. Sit up nice and tall. Lift the toes, hinge back a few inches. If this feels okay, go ahead and lift the legs up for boat Navasana. Remember, you can stay here, you can straighten the legs if you feel like you want a little extra challenge today. Now here, inhale, rotate to one side, take your block, row your boat. Come back through center, rotate to the other side, row the boat. Inhale, center, exhale, twist. Inhale, center, exhale, twist. Once more to each side. Coming back to center, lower the feet. Keep your block handy and roll down to your back. As you land, keep the knees bent, bring your feet close in to your hips. And take your block, let's bring it on the lowest level for today. You're gonna press into your feet, lift your hips, slide your block under your sacrum, and then rest the weight of the pelvis down in the block. So this is a little introduction, working our way towards bridge, but this is supported bridge. Now that your hips are supported, and if it feels like you have pressure on your low back here, try pushing your block closer towards your feet. You really want it on your sacrum, not on your lumbar spine. Once you feel secure here, pull your shoulders underneath you. So you're trying to get your weight on your triceps and off the middle of your back. This opening across the front of the chest is what we're going to be looking for in our regular bridge posture. It might feel a little more awkward in this supported shape. Breathing in. And breathing out. Take one more breath, how you are. Release the shoulders out from under you, so your weight can come back to the shoulder blades, the middle of the upper back. And if you feel really secure here, maybe you lift one leg or both legs towards the ceiling. I tend to have a tendency to sort of grab my block here just to make sure it's not teetering anywhere. If this doesn't feel good or supportive for you, just bring your feet back down. This is a supported shoulder stand variation. It's also similar to a restorative posture that we'll introduce in our restorative practice later on, called legs up the wall. We just aren't using a wall. Take one more breath. Let the knees bend, let the feet come back down to the mat. Lift your hips just enough to slide your block out from under you, and then lower back down to your mat. Hug your knees into your chest, rock a little side to side. Bring your feet back down to the mat, and take your feet the width of your mat, but keep your knees bent. From here, open your arms out either into a T or to goalposts, and let both knees drop over to one side. If you want more intensity in your twist, whichever leg is more forward, take that foot, bring it on top of the other thigh, and guide your knee a little closer to the floor. 2 more breaths here. If you brought the foot on top of the thigh, slide it off. And then inhale, bring the knees back to center. Readjust if you need to resituate so your hips are center, feet are the width of the mat, knees are bent. And then on an exhale, let the knees fall to the other side. And maybe you stay here, or maybe that front foot comes on top of the higher thigh to guide the knee a little closer towards the floor. Two more breaths. If you put the foot on top of the thigh, slide it off. Inhale the knees back to center. And then take a moment here, let the knees fall in to touch in the midline. Take a deep breath and notice. How does your body feel? Does it feel pretty good? Do you feel ready to come into Shavasana and rest? Or does it feel like you need anything else? If something is calling to you, take a moment to listen to the teacher within you and do what your body's asking for. So it might be hugging the knees again, taking a little rock. It might be coming into a happy baby shape, or reclining bound angle, Supta Baddha Konasana, if you'd like a little more opening for the hips. If there's anything that's speaking to you, take a moment and do what it feels like you need. If you feel ready to rest, go ahead and extend the legs and arms and come into Shavasana. You're welcome to use any of your props, maybe that blanket roll under the neck or your bolster under your knees or thighs. Or maybe you just choose a flat line Shavasana shape for today. Once you do find your way to rest, with each exhale, let your body get a little heavier, a little more relaxed, sink a little deeper into the support of your mat, of the earth. Breathing in, breathing out. Maybe you notice if there's any tension in your jaw or your forehead that you can release. Are your shoulders really falling heavy? Are the legs really relaxed?
Take a deep breath in. And let that breath go. As you pull new air into the body, let that breath bring some movement back in whatever way makes sense to you. Maybe you wiggle the fingers and the toes. Maybe you make some circles through the wrists or through the ankles. Over the next couple breaths, let this movement get a little bit bigger. Maybe you reach the arms overhead for a big stretch. And as you feel ready, hug the knees towards the chest and roll to your favorite side. Pausing on your side for a moment of gratitude towards yourself. Thank yourself for taking this time to connect body, mind, and spirit, to connect yourself to something greater than yourself. And thank yourself for listening to the teacher within you, using this practice in the way that best serves you, and being content with what you found today. As you're ready, slowly press your way back up to sitting, finding your way back to any comfortable seated position. Once you land, float the palms together in front of the heart, Anjali Mudra. We'll close practice with one Om. Om is that universal vibration that exists within all living things. And so you're welcome to join in, or just listen to me and feel that vibration resonate within your space and your body as well. We'll take a cleansing breath first, breathing in together. Let that breath out with a sigh. Breathing in for Om. Thumbs press in towards your heart, your center. And the hands float up, brushing the forehead, connecting heart and mind. Thank you for sharing practice.